Silverton, me going to Silverton is where a lot of my life started. About third, fourth, and fifth grade, I spent 75% of my time of my school year in ISS, in school suspension. I made it into dance ensemble, but I was considered an alternate. Is when they pick you, but you have to work towards getting better. The whole fifth grade, I was in one dance in the Christmas program, and then I got a little better, and I was in 2 dances in the spring program. And then once I got to 6th grade, somehow, I don't know what happened, but I became the main dancer. Your teachers prepare you to get ready to go to junior high school, and all of they were called proficiency tests back when I was in elementary school. They were proficiency tests, and I passed all of them, above average and everything else. And so my teachers wanted me to go to Walnut Hills. But at the same time, my mom didn't, because she didn't know what Walnut Hills High School was or anything like that. There was this one teacher in particular named Miss Kelly, and she became my godmother. And she took me under her wing. She took care of me. I didn't live with her, but she took care of me. She made sure I had school supplies. She made sure I had clothes for school. And she did a lot for me. And from there on, Miss Kelly was there throughout a lot of my life. And after I left Silverton, I went to a junior high school called Schroeder, and I was there for 7th grade. There's where I began playing sports. I played basketball and I ran track. That year, I won 1st place in the 100 meters for track. After 7th grade, I decided that I wanted to audition for the School for Creative and Performing Arts. And I went to Performing Arts for 4 years, from 8th grade up until 11th grade. While I was at Performing Arts, I met a lot of great people. I did a lot of shows. I met my dad. Last time I had seen my dad, I was 4 years old, and I didn't remember anything about him except the fact of he was heavyset, and I remembered that he was mean. I remember he was never mean to me, but I remember that he was mean to my sister and he was mean to my mom. And during the time when I was at Silverton, I was telling my mom, I really want to be my dad. I want to find my dad. All of my brothers and sisters have their dad, and it's not fair. On Father's Day, I have to stay home with you because they're all gone with their dads and I'm here. So why can't I meet my dad? And she just kept telling me, no, you don't want to meet your dad. You don't need to meet him and everything else. And at that time, I was a little girl. I was only 10 or 11, so I listened to my mom, like, okay, whatever. But by the time I got to high school, it was a different story. You know, you want both of your parents in your life when you have performances. And then when I had a lot of performances, my mom didn't have transportation. So none of my family really came to see me performing anything. And at that point, I felt it was very important to have both of my parents in my life. I did a little bit of searching for him, but it wasn't much that I knew to go look for him. I knew that he lived in Columbus, Ohio, and I knew his name. And that was about it. Anybody could show me a picture, and I would not know who he was. Eventually, it was the end of my 8th grade year. I was 14 years old, and it was the week before Father's Day. And my aunt got a call from one of her best friends. She was like, Sarah, you told me that her dad's name is Kurt Younger? Well, I work with a Kurt Younger. And it was so crazy because all these years, she's known me and never knew that she had been working with my father. And all these years, my aunt's best friend, she had a picture of me on her desk when I was little. So she took the picture to my father and she told him, she said, do you know this little girl? And he told her, he was like, she looks familiar, but she does, I don't know, I don't think I know who she is. And she said, well, this is your daughter, and she's been looking for you for the past 11 years. And he cried, because apparently all these years I was so angry at my dad because I didn't know where he was. I didn't know who he was. And I was mad because the last time I had seen him, we lived in an apartment building in Northside, and we lived in that apartment building for 9 years. And we never moved, and he never came back to see me. But when he told my aunt's friend, he's like, well, I have been looking for her too. I went there, and long story short, I met my dad. I got to talk to him, and by the time I got on the phone with him, all of the anger that I had towards him was out the window because I was so happy to be hearing from my dad and be talking to the man that I had been looking for almost my whole life. So on Father's Day weekend, I met my dad. I went up to Columbus to visit him, and all this time I've had 4 little brothers, and I never knew that I had any little sisters. I always wanted a little sister, and I get up to Columbus and I had 2 little sisters. And that was very great for me. That was a turning point, the biggest turning point in my life, because meeting my dad, he's helped me get through a lot of stuff. After meeting my dad, we're now going into my freshman year of high school. So my dad did stuff like he drove all the way down from Columbus just to take me to school on the first day of school. And he drove all the way down from Columbus just to come see one of my choir concerts. So he'll come down just for one of our Spring Fest, which was a dance recital. He'll come all the way down just to see a play that I was in. And that meant a whole lot to me because my mom didn't get to see the stuff that I was in. I got to hang out with him a little bit. We became close, and he bought me a cell phone, my first cell phone, so I was happy. So, he was the best person in the world at that moment. And then the end of my freshman year, I was 15 years old. I got pregnant. And me and my dad, our relationship went out the window. He was mad at me. He had all of his family mad at me. He had my older sister tell me that I would never amount to anything, and that I would raise my daughter in poverty. I would raise my daughter in the projects or on welfare, not being able to take care of her myself. And those words hurt, and coming from my own sister, they hurt really bad. So I cut off my family my dad's side of the family for about 7 months of my pregnancy, and then after 7 months, my dad called me and he apologized, and so it was kind of refreshing. It was like I just met him and now he left me again. And at that point, it's like, that's all I know you for, is coming into my life and leaving. But he came back, and he was there for me. He wasn't happy at the fact that I was 15 and having a baby, but he was there for me. After having my daughter, her father wasn't around. Her father wasn't happy at the fact that I was having a baby and that I was keeping her. He wasn't happy at all. He didn't tell his family about it. And so I'm not a confrontational person, so I really didn't care. At that point, I was like, well, you choose what you want to do. If you're in my daughter's life, that's up to you. I just don't want her to go through what I went through because it's not fun. My mom did as much for me as she could, but at the same time, my mom was struggling herself. So I moved in with my daughter's grandmother. She took care of us, everything that my daughter needed. She did it. She bought her everything she needed. I was working, so I was able to provide too. But she wanted me to make sure I was staying in school and doing everything that I had to do. In 2008, it was my junior year, and so they have what they call a junior review at Performing Arts. And because I was pregnant most of my sophomore year, I missed a lot of classes, I missed a lot of credits, and at Performing Arts, your credits are based by semester, not a whole school year. So first semester, I could have gotten like 6 credits, because at Performing Arts, each school year, you have to make at least 10 credits, and that's including all of your academics and your arts. So my sophomore year, I only completed 3 credits. And I didn't know, they told me this at the end of my sophomore year, and then I took summer school. I went to summer school, and then when they got to junior review, they told me, well, you're not set to be a senior because you're missing this credit, you're missing that credit. End of the day, I was missing 12 credits, so I was not eligible to be a senior. I was still considered a junior. He came down and got me, and we went and we spoke with counselors and everything else, and even there, they were telling me, well, you could graduate mid-year 2010. And I was like, I'll try it, but I'm still going to do everything in my power that I can to graduate on time. So I got up to Columbus. I joined the step team, I joined track team, I joined the basketball team. I gave up my lunch periods, so I didn't have lunch. I didn't eat lunch. Well, I ate lunch, but I didn't go to the cafeteria and get to sit down with my friends and eat lunch. I was at school from 7:30 in the morning until 8 o'clock each night. All day, every day. I was at school, and I would have to wake up the next morning at 5:30 to get ready for school because I did have a daughter. So I had to get her ready for school, get her to school, and then get back home so I can get on the bus to go to school. At first, everything was good because he was so excited that I was there that I had made the decision to move there. But then I would say his true colors came out. My dad, everything that my mom had told me that I didn't want to be him, and everything that I had remembered about my dad had surfaced. He became verbally abusive. And if you don't know what verbally abusive is, when you're abusing someone with words. Teachers saw the term. All of my teachers in school, they heard the story about what happened, and they saw how determined I was. They all talked to my dad, and they all, called me and talked me into coming back to Columbus because they knew had I gone back to Cincinnati, I wasn't going to do what I had came to Columbus to do. December of 2008, mind you, my daughter's nana I did live with her, and she was like a mother to me, and she took care of me, and I called her mom. In December of 2008, a week before my birthday, I was at step rehearsal, and I got a call on my cell phone. I had missed like 5 calls. And it was someone from my church. And I still went to church here because I still came home every weekend to go to church. It was someone from my church. And she called, when I answered the phone, she was crying. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And she says, it's Stephanie. My daughter's grandmother's name is Stephanie. I'm like, what's wrong? And she's like, she's gone. She's not here. And I think that's the first time I've ever cried, like hysterically at the moment of hearing that somebody had passed away. I left. I ran out of my rehearsal, and it was hard. It was really hard because that was the only person that really helped me with my daughter and that knew everything, like almost everything about me, knew my ups and downs, cared when I was crying. A lot of my family is like insensitive, so like they're so strong that they think it's not okay to cry. So around her, I was human. I was able to cry, and losing her was one of the worst things in the world. I think my dad, he wouldn't let me come back to Cincinnati, so I didn't get to see her until the actual funeral. And because of that, it was even harder. In passing away, it kind of gave me a push because she knew I could do it. She knew how determined I was. And she was like, I can't wait for you to graduate. So, we're going to be up there. We're coming to your graduation. We'll make that trip. And I knew if I didn't graduate that year, that I would have disappointed her. So I kept pushing. I kept pushing. It was second semester. I went and had a meeting with my counselor, and he's telling me, well, you made a few credits up, but I still think you might have to come back here next year and take at least 2 classes and then graduate mid-year. And I still wasn't having it. I said, nope, I'm not coming back here next year. I'm graduating this year. Whether y'all like it or not, whether y'all think I am or not, I'm graduating this year. I gave up my lunch period. I actually gave up basketball so that I could take a class after school. So I'm taking classes during the day, I'm taking classes after school, I'm taking classes at night, and I'm taking classes at home. At the same time, I'm being a mother. So I took these independent study classes at home, passed those with 4.0s. My overall GPA at school my senior year was a 3.8. At the end of the year, I think it was the last quarter, I had brought in the credits and the report cards from the independent studies, and my school accepted them. So the last quarter, my guidance counselor, he looked at me and he cried because he was like, I didn't think that you would be able to do it. He said, you're on the last home stretch. He was like, and these aren't even, you already have these credits because your grades are so good from the 3rd quarter. So second semester, regardless, you can fail second semester and still pass because you had straight A's 3rd quarter. And for me, it was like a breather. Because I wasn't going to fail. No, I wasn't just going to give up. Like, okay, I did it, so now I'm done. When I graduated from high school, all my family came, and everybody was so happy and so proud of me. And it was the best day of my life, the best feeling. I think I drove myself to my graduation because, of course, we had to be there early. And as I pulled up to the place where I was graduating, I see all my classmates, walking up with their caps and gowns. And I probably was, they all called me soft, but I probably was the only one to cry as I pulled up. Because I'm like, I did it. I made it. After everybody telling me that I wasn't going to do it, I was going to graduate in 2010, I'm like, no, I'm going to graduate. I'm going to walk with my class in 2009. And I did. That's the biggest accomplishment. And to this day, I'm so proud of myself for that. Because who can make up 12 credits in one school year? That's like 3 years in 1 year.